Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Thompson, Director of Events at Business Publications Corp. Thank you for joining us for our first Fearless Focus event of 2025. Whether you're a longtime member of the Fearless community or joining us for the first time, we're glad that you're here. For those of you who are new here to Fearless, Fearless launched in 2020 as a multi-platform initiative dedicated to empowering Iowa women to succeed in work and life. Through women-centered content, events, and media, we aim to support women in the companies and allies who value and champion them. Before we get into our discussion today, we wanted to take a moment to formally introduce our Fearless editor, Macy Shofroth. Macy started working with Fearless in 2024, and she joined us full-time just this past January. She's the catalyst behind our weekly e-newsletter. Macy, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're currently working on for Fearless?
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. Yes, my name is Macy. I was born and raised in a small town in eastern Iowa where my family worked at and owned the local newspaper for more than 50 years. So I followed the family tradition and graduated with a degree in journalism in creative writing from the University of Iowa. I've been a voracious reader and writer my entire life, which has given me my passion to highlight and elevate the many beautiful and complex stories around us. So with Fearless, I've gotten to tell the stories of just incredible Iowa women forging their own paths and making a difference across Iowa. Some of those stories have been a young woman fighting period poverty with her nonprofit, Love for Red, female athletic directors changing women's sports in Iowa, and a female fire chief growing as a leader in a male-dominated field. And I've also been able to explore how different policies and social issues are impacting Iowans, like a recent lawsuit affecting protections for families with disabilities, and the impact of the recent removal of civil rights protections for trans Iowans on workplaces. So I'm really excited to just continue sharing these stories and empowering Iowa women to succeed both in work and life. So if you ever have a story idea, please feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Great, thanks, Macy. A lot of exciting things coming our way, so we appreciate you being here. All right, today we're diving into a powerful and timely topic, the state of women-owned businesses. According to the 2024 Wells Fargo Impact of Women-Owned Businesses report, women-owned businesses now employ over 12 million people and are growing at a nearly twice the rate of those owned by men. However, challenges such as limited access to capital, childcare barriers, and gaps in mentorship persist. In this conversation, you'll hear from women entrepreneurs across the state as they share their journeys, struggles, and what we can all do better to help support the next generation of business owners. To lead us through this important discussion and introduce today's panelists, I'm excited to welcome Emily Wood, our Special Projects Editor for the Business Record. Emily, take it away.
All right, thanks, Stacy, and welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you join us today. We are focusing on business ownership. Whether you're an entrepreneur yourself, an aspiring business owner, or a supporter of women-owned businesses, we know you'll find today's discussion valuable. Today, we're talking to some business owners from around the state who are going to share their journeys and discuss how we can better support female entrepreneurs. We want this to be really interactive, so feel free to join in the discussion by putting your own thoughts and questions in the chat, and I'll try to ask as many audience questions as I can. With us today, we unfortunately we're supposed to have Alex Kobel-Frake, the CEO of the Agenda Period, joining us today, but unfortunately she had a last-minute conflict. But with us today, we do have Alicia Jaime, the co-owner and president of International Veterinary Supplies. We have Gabriella Torres, an Iowa-based artist and consultant. And we have LaDrina Wilson, founder and CEO of Iman Consulting. All of these women are established in their journeys, but I've asked them to start off our discussion by telling us a story about why they started their business and what it felt like at the time. So Alicia, I'll have you kick us off. Oh, Alicia, I think you're on mute.
Hello, sorry about that. So hello, everybody. Thank you for being in contact with us. First of all, I want to let you know that I'm originally from Argentina. So more than 25 years ago, I moved to Iowa, and this is my new home. The most important thing is that it was all new for me. My husband and I, we were working for a company here in Iowa, and that company closed its business. And we made a decision just to see, okay, well, now what? And after 2 years, we decided to open the company. The most challenging thing is just to find out what's your call. And then if you have passion for what you do, and if you have a real desire to do what you want to do, then everything is possible. And that's what we did. You know, it was tough. It was not easy. It was a lot of surprises over the time that we decided to do this. But at the end of the day, it's very rewarding. So what we did was we opened this company. We're selling veterinary supplies, everything that is for the animal health, large animals. So our focus was on trying to help our farmers, being able to give back just a little bit of what we received. And then we worked hard to bring back to Iowa the business that was closed and gone. So in 5 years, we were just us, my husband and I, and we were working hard to export. We were exporting to more than 25 countries out of the world from Iowa. Most challenging thing was I'm a CPA. My husband is an optometrist. As a CPA, I do have the background, and I was able to understand and know what to do. But you have to, if you don't have that type of background, my recommendation is always be in partner with the ones that are going to give you the best advice possible professionally. Because if you're a woman and you have to face the banks and you have to ask for money, then you have to be sure that you show them that they can trust you. And the only way to do that is with numbers. So having said that, you have to prepare a very good business plan. You have to be sure that, that you will be able to pay that. And at the end of the day, that business plan that they're asking you to do is helping you on, okay, how is my business going to be? Who's my target? In our case, everything is about products. So then it's a lot of variables, components. It's not, even when we are the company and we are the business, the product is the star of this game. So it's a different thing than if you give a service, which you are the one giving the service, and then you have to show and think about a different complexity. But the only thing that is the most important one is to be sure what's your goal, not to look here, but look over there, and be sure that that's the place that you want to go. And then from there, everything is possible if you want to. We are the precisely American dream. So, after so many years, it's like we cannot even believe what we did. But that means a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hours, and it's very rewarding. It's very, very rewarding, especially when you feel that what you do put food on the table of other people. And that is amazing, that you can have people working with you, not for you, because the teamwork is key to be successful. So that's kind of my little story. Hard, shocking. I mean, Argentina is pretty far away, right? So here we are working and taking a look to our future.
Thank you very much. Gabby, do you want to share next?
Okay, sure. Perfect. Well, firstly, thank you so much again for having me on this panel. I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm grateful to everyone who signed up and is joining us today. And really, my story is it's a very personal one, but I feel like it's always personal. You know, starting your own business and being on this entrepreneurial journey is a super personal decision. And it kind of it chose me maybe more than I had chosen it initially. In 2021, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so at the time, I was working full time for a local nonprofit here, and I was their development director and marketing director. And my dad, so he had this diagnosis, and so I had a tough choice, and I wanted to care for him. So I quit my full-time job, and I was looking after my dad. And while he was still sound of mind and lucid, I'm an artist, I should say. That's probably key information. So I am an artist. Some of my paintings are in the background. I'm also an art consultant, and I do a variety of things. But at the time, I wouldn't have called myself a professional artist. And again, so fast forward, I'm speaking with my father, and he was still able to be lucid. He said to me, you know, Gabby, anyone can you're good at your job, but anyone can be a development director or marketing director, but not everyone can paint the way that you paint. And I really want to see you spread your wings and fly while I can still enjoy your successes. And so that was really the impetus for me to be brave enough to set out on this journey. So that's why I started. I started because life has a way sometimes of guiding you in the right direction. And so it was a alignment of all these different things. And what did it feel like? It felt like a gift, a scary, scary, scary gift. It's been exhilarating. It's been terrifying. It's always interesting. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of is to be a business owner and to have to be able to say I'm a professional artist now. So that's basically in a nutshell why I started. And why I keep doing it is because I absolutely love it, and I could not imagine doing anything else other than this. So yeah, that's my story.
Awesome. Thank you very much. LaDrina?
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I hope that the people who have joined this call are here for a wide variety of reasons. If there are people here because they are choosing to potentially start a business but not have taken that leap, I hope you find the inspiration that you need today. Certainly, Alicia and Gabby's stories are quite compelling. But for those people who are joining and maybe already have a business, I hope that you get what you need to accelerate to your next level. When we were asked to consider our stories, mine isn't very sexy, but I will be honest with you, it will probably resonate with many of you. We all experienced COVID, and at the time, I'm a mother of four. I will readily admit I am too over capacity. But during COVID, my kids were home from school, and I was a vice president at a college. I had to be a vice president at a college, coach my team of leaders who also had kids at home, move our entire college remote. And I was the IT support when my kid's Chromebook wasn't working. I was the gym teacher. I was the teaching a 7-year-old how to read. Turns out I know how to read, but teaching somebody else how to read is super hard. Um, and it was almost like all of my worlds were colliding at once, and it was too much. Simultaneously, I had chosen a career path that I had accelerated in and had had lots of successes that was about creating opportunities for other people to have access to education and self-determination. During COVID, we shut our doors, so it was kind of like I was telling students, you can't come in the building. It became counterintuitive to like what my values were. And so I made a choice. COVID was really hard, but I decided to take on a productive distraction of starting a business. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Gabby's remarks reminded me, she used the word brave. I would call my story as probably one that is less brave and more courageous. I'm afraid every single day, but I do it anyway. Bravery implies that you just go in there and you know that you're being strong. I'm like, I'm showing up and I'm hoping it works on a fairly regular basis. Um, so that's how I started my company, Iman Consulting, and we do customized education and training and organizational development across the country. So that's a little bit about my journey. The one thing I will leave you with as I hear across these other stories that were shared is we've all kind of stumbled into our roles due to circumstantial situations. The most rewarding thing you can do for yourself, no matter where you're at in your journey to entrepreneurship, is do it intentionally. My biggest regret was starting my business is that I wasn't courageous enough to do it 4 years before. So if it's on your heart and in your mind and you know you have a next level, just trust yourself and take that next step.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for providing a little bit of background about yourselves and why you decided to start your own businesses. I'd love if you could each share a little bit about what are some of the most rewarding parts of being an entrepreneur for each of you in your journey so far. And whoever wants to take it first.
I'm unmuted, so I guess I could go. I would say there's probably three aspects of what I do that are most rewarding. Autonomy is something that's really important to me. So I think knowing your values will help you determine if entrepreneurship is the right lane for you. Like if security is super important to you, um, it can be kind of scary sometimes. And so you need to evaluate what your values are. But autonomy and freedom is something that is important to me. After having done this for the last 4 years, I couldn't imagine like asking somebody if I could take time off or like asking to go to my kids' games or, those types of things. Like and I actually don't want people on my team to ask to do those things. I've been able to, through ownership, create the values that I think that my team can connect to, which is family, fur babies, because for some people they're like family, your faith, if that is something that's important to you, and fitness. That could be your physical fitness or your mental fitness. And so I've built those values into my decision making and how I select a team, how I select clients to work with, and then the directions that I get to take the projects that we build. And the last thing that I would say has been rewarding is like flexibility. I work really late nights or really early mornings, and sometimes in the middle of the day, I don't have as much to do because I have the flexibility in the line of work that I do to kind of create that.
I'll go next. I agree with everything that you said, LaDrina. Like all of those points really resonate, and I think in addition to those points, for me, what's really rewarding is the ability to build something from the ground up and watch it grow and truly understand the way like every little aspect of your business, it inside and out. And I don't know, I find that deeply, deeply rewarding to truly know and be the expert in my business and know. And it's almost like a child for me. Like I know it so very well and I care for it, and watching it grow is so satisfying, not just because of what that might mean for me personally, but the fact that you started with this seed of an idea and now you're watching it, you're nurtured it into success, and that's so rewarding. I also think it's really rewarding because it's pushed me to be things I didn't think I could be or do things I didn't think I could do. Even things, when you're wearing, I'm a solopreneur, really. So I wear all the hats, and I never thought I would be able to negotiate contracts, be an accountant, do all of these things that are very different to what I normally do, which is paint. And that's really incredible. It's such an empowering feeling. So I think that's another reward, a deep reward of being an entrepreneur and having a business. And then I've also loved the becoming a leader as well. I think that's really great, and being able to decide the culture. Even though I am an army of one, I still, I do have some help that comes in now and then, and just being the leader that that's important to me. Having good leadership and creating a culture where people are working with you, like Alicia said, and there's freedom and flexibility and valuing people. And that's really awesome too. And I will say, I've also, because I am in this position now, I've met some incredible people, women who are business owners and are just killing it, and that creating that network of other business-minded women or entrepreneurial women and how we help each other is amazing. And so those are some of just, all of it is so rewarding, but those are the points I did want to highlight.
Well, in my case, I totally agree with LaDrina and Gabby. That's absolutely to the point. I'm adding a couple of things that are personal in the meaning of what is rewarding for me. We have many people that help us when we came. People that was very generous, that they were, explaining us how the health system was or how the school system worked, and so many things that you don't know because you were not, born and raised in here. So I have to learn for my daughter a lot of things, and everything was so immensely wonderful that by the time that the company closed the business, they were asking me, well, you should think to move to Kentucky. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not moving from Iowa. This is my home. Even when my husband and I both were going to be without a job. And when we started this business, the first idea was to bring back a little bit of what we received. That was our main goal. So seeing that business growing, being able to connect with so many wonderful people, new people. We were even representing Iowa in an international show in Bangkok in the US Pavilion as an Iowa company. That kind of things is so incredible for us. And it is so rewarding because we start from nothing. And even more than nothing, because we're not here and not from here. So being our farmers, our target to help them, but not belonging to the farmer life, it was double challenged. So now being able to have them on board, being able to have a conversation at the shows, being able to know more stories, that is so freaking rewarding for us because we are feeding ourselves with everything that is surrounding us. And I think that that is another important thing, which is feed yourself with everything that surrounds you. And this is network connections. Any person that approach you, it's so wonderful. And for us, like LaDrina was saying, it's so important. We went through different type of companies that the environment was sick or was hard or was difficult or was not understanding the need of a mom because the boss was mad because someone has to take the kid to the doctor. Well, that is a mom job. Sorry, it is a mom job. I mean, dad can do that as well, but usually we are the ones. And that is something that in the day-to-day thing is hard in the business. So being able to create your own group, understand women on needs, being able to have a feedback with the ones that you are creating as a group, as a team to work with you is so important, it's so rewarding because you are able to teach them, you are able to guide them, you are able to give them a better life at some point. So then that is absolutely incredible rewarding because you are improving others people's lives sometimes. Once I said to someone in the bank that when they're giving you a loan, they're not changing something related to, oh, well, now you have a business. They're changing life. In our case, is an example. They changed our life. We could be employees. Instead, we decided to go with this independency, like both of them said. So I think that is very important for women to understand that we have a very special role, not only in business, but in our own family. Even if you have or not kids, it doesn't matter. As a woman, you are kind of the boss of many things and many hats at the family's role. So that will be together with the business itself.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. So we talked, you all mentioned a few of the maybe challenges that you've faced, but I'd love to know either from your own experience or with working with other women business owners, what are some of the challenges that exist for female entrepreneurs and what do you think we should be doing about them?
I can start. As a professional woman in business environments all my life, I have to always show that I was more capable than. Otherwise, I was not as good as. And usually that was men. Sorry, but that is the reality. So when I became a businesswoman, I had to show and prove that I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted and what was my goal and what I was heading. Trust. You have to gain trust. So that was one of the most challenging things because trust is not only related to if the bank is going to give you money or not. Trust is about suppliers. Trust is about customers. Trust is about networking who can or cannot recommend you for certain things. So learn that when you say yes is yes, is not yes is yes, and no is no, and your word is important, and your presence is important. And I think that in my world of business all my life, because I was consultant, I mean, I have entrepreneurs that I was working as a consultant for many, many years. And, you know, it's hard as a woman to be heard sometimes. And you have to prove yourself over and over and over and over. And that is probably one of the challenges that is always there. And you have to know how to deal with that. But if you're passionate, if you're professional, if you know what you want, not a problem.
Yeah, I think maybe piggybacking off of that, Alicia, is you said knowing your worth. And I think for me, being very explicit with listeners is like that also is reflected in your pricing, right? So I think full disclosure, year one, I left a lot of money on the table because I'm like, oh, I don't know if they'll really pay that much for it. And it was because I had lacked the confidence. Now, anybody who interacted with me or engaged with me would never think that I lacked the confidence. And certainly in the moment, I didn't think I was lacking confidence. But when I reflect back on it, it definitely had to do with that. And it took me hiring another team member who was able to say, no, like, there's just no way you should be giving it away. So that's one aspect of knowing your worth. It should be reflected in your pricing and your products. And then also I would say like another struggle point for me has been knowing when to ask for help. I feel like there's a little bit of a cultural context for this as well for me. As a Black woman who grew up in a single parent household, I watched a Black woman carry the load of everything. And so it was like, you got this. And I certainly for those solopreneurs, you also know going into it, you are going to have to wear many hats. But one of the books that I read that was most helpful for me in really accelerating the growth of my business was called Ripples of Zambezi. And it talks about how there's really three lanes that you need to explore: your product, your sales, and then your finance. You're probably not going to be great at all three. Like in my case, I'm kind of the product. Like I develop the consulting packages and that type of thing. I have somebody else on my team who's really good with knowing where to find the dollars and knowing how to sell the product or position the product. And then I need somebody else who's going to handle the finances, because when you're working in the business as well as on the business, you need to invest to have other people that help. And that goes back to like knowing what your skill sets are, knowing your worth, but also if you're just getting started, you likely have people who believe in you who will help at little or no charge. And there might be resources even in your community, that your small business development center. It could be a score, if you have a score in your community, where people will help you with, this is how you get your spreadsheet set up. This is how you really need to work on your pricing, those types of things. You do not have to go it alone. Leadership in itself is very a lonely road to travel. So just know when to ask for help, even if you're not asking the person, if the person in front of you isn't the right person to give you the help, they may know where to point you.
I agree completely. I think that is a true, being able to ask for help and asking for expert advice in areas you're not an expert in is really essential. And it's total, and people are happy to help. I've learned people get excited when you ask for help. It's our human nature. We want to be able to help each other. So just piggybacking off of what LaDrina said, I think there are challenges, but asking for help is like, I have no shame in asking for help now. I ask questions all the time, and it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to understand other people's businesses and expertise areas, and it's a great way to build partnerships and collaborations. So asking for help, if you're gonna go on this road, get comfortable with asking for help, because it's the best thing you can do. In terms of challenges I've faced, that I continue to face, I think for me, one of the biggest challenges of being in this life and being a business owner is just, as a woman, I will speak specifically to my experience as a woman, is I'm also like the primary caregiver for, I take care of my mom who is elderly. And then I'm also like the primary nurturer person in my own family. And then I'm nurturing my business. And so I feel that I've been doing a lot better, making sure I have time for myself, doing things to make sure that I can reset. But the emotional labor is in all of these facets it's a lot, and there's emotional labor for my business, or I would imagine for all of us. I don't want to speak for anyone, but making this decision, it's personal, right? You're taking a huge risk, financially, all kinds of ways. And so, yeah, it's super personal. When you have your own business, it's a very personal thing. And so there's a lot of emotional labor that's involved with that. And so for me, I think sometimes really that it's that just feeling like I'm pulled in all directions all the time. Even when asking for help, that I still have that emotional pull, and just making sure that I don't burn out and that I can show up the way I want to show up to all of the things that I do, be it in business, in my personal relationships, with my mother, with my friends. I want to make sure I'm still showing up and being present, while also knowing that I've got about 5 million plates spinning at the same time that I'm also responsible for. And I think that's an ongoing balance and dance. And I'm not sure what the solution is, but I'm sure when enough people get together, we could certainly figure something out. So anyhow, that's my response.
Thank you all. This question in the chat, I'll start with you, LaDrina, on this, but the question is, how do you find the endurance, strength, and motivation to continue to prove yourself repeatedly when your counterparts do not?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting question, and I'm probably not going to give like the perfect answer, but I just want to give what my answer is, and hopefully that inspires someone else. And certainly to my counterparts here on the panel, if you have a different answer, I'd love to hear it too. I'm running my race. So I have put behind me the idea of proving myself to anybody else other than myself. And I've made that conscious choice, maybe to my kids. I think that's probably my other biggest accountability partner is I have 4 strong women that I'm raising, and I want to be an example for them. But I don't think about what other people don't have to do, because if I did, I would be in a constant fit of rage. So what I try to do is think about what I can do, where my boundaries are, and I believe that the people who I am for will recognize that. They will recognize that strength. They will recognize my value and my worth. And so in that respect, it doesn't feel like I'm proving myself compared to someone else. I know the reality of it is there are probably questions or moments where I get questioned about things that maybe my male counterparts aren't. There are probably times where pricing is negotiated where maybe my male counterparts aren't having to negotiate their price. But if I go into it thinking about, "Oh, I shouldn't have to do this," as opposed to just taking up my space and doing it, um, I feel like that's the work that I've decided the energy I've decided to invest in. Simultaneously, the work that I do in my education and training is about helping people realize that they may have these biases and that you shouldn't be approaching the work doing your work that way. And so I think that is probably my pressure valve release is that I get to educate people on the fact that these dynamics exist. So I don't have to be in this constant fit of anger that somebody else had to do it differently than me. Again, not a perfect answer, but just like that's kind of how I've chosen to live my life.
Alicia, what does that look like for you from when you first started with your own business and the need to prove yourself then versus now, after many years?
In the beginning it was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was a very hard time. Between then and now, I think that the main difference is the independency of being able to do what we want to do. When we came into the United States, the company brought me to be controller, and I was in disagree of many things. And even when I was explaining so many times the importance of people and the environment and I don't know, things that were not just business related, not number, profit or margins. And I was not here. Now that I can make our own decision, even with my husband, and create that environment and do what we want to do in a way that we want to do, I think that that is the main thing about before and now. Because in regards of the business is business. You can allow yourself to work more or less in different ways. But I think that one of the most important thing is that we have to understand that economy is not about numbers. Economy is about people and how people respond. And so then when they're talking about, oh, in my case, an accountant and you're working with numbers and papers. No, we're working with people. And so that is one of the most difficult things sometimes for entrepreneurs to understand that, the working capital, the most important working capital of the business is the one that are making the business. Your group, your team, your partners, all the ones that are surrounding you. So that I think that is the most important thing that changed between then and now.
So one of the areas that I want to be sure to dive into is access to capital and whatever that may look like for different businesses, whether that's grant funding or whether that's investors, some of that initial capital investment to be able to get started in a business. And I'm just curious what that has looked like for you all in terms of being able to find resources to help you with that. And what do you think we can do, knowing that this is an issue for a lot of female entrepreneurs, is getting that initial investment to get off the ground? And Gabby, I'd like to start with you because I know, in your case, you're also in a smaller community, and so that's even maybe different than other folks who are in metropolitan areas.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I think, and you were asking for in term altruistic capital in terms of grant funding and other forms of investment to get you off the ground.
Mhm.
So it, okay, yeah. So, that's a really excellent question, and I think that. So for me, so one of the other hats I wear is I am the co-founder and co-director of a arts nonprofit here in Clinton called Paint It Back, where we use public art and street art to bring new energy to communities, or to spaces, and revitalize communities and spur economic development and growth. And when we started, it was literally an idea. It was just an idea, and the idea was to transform a building that we have in our community. It's this 8,800 square foot old garage for, it used to be to repair cars or something. And it had sat for several years and became pretty neglected. And so I had the idea to create a street art festival. So we would take 1 week, have artists from around the country come, paint this entire building in murals, and have a block party to celebrate the end of the festival and the new artwork. And that endeavor is about $60,000, which I did not have. So that was one of those situations where working in a smaller community has its advantages, because I went out. And so how did I get started? It was a pairing of grant funding and also sponsorships and donations. And so and it was, probably about a 50-50 mix. And the benefit of being in a small town is that I know a lot of people. I grew up here. I was born and raised in Clinton, Iowa. I did leave for several years and then I came back. And since I've been back, I've also invested in my community in terms of just volunteer hours, purchasing properties and rehabbing them, things like that. So when I went to ask people if they wanted to support this endeavor of this Paint It Back Street Art Festival, a lot of people were like, I think they were like, we don't really know what she's talking about, but we trust Gabby. We believe in her. And so we're going to support this and see what she can do. Which I don't know that I would have that luck if I was in a bigger community. Because we are a smaller town, people know who I am, had seen what I had already accomplished, and that I was really service minded and really thinking about the community. And so I was able to get that initial sponsorship, to be able to have this festival. And now we'll be in our 3rd year this year. And now it's like this beloved community event. So I'm not sure. Does that answer your question a little bit, Emily?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And LaDrina, what has that looked like for you in terms of the access to capital, and what do you think we can do to make sure that other female entrepreneurs are able to get access to capital?
Yeah, so there's two parts to my answer. One, I was a solopreneur before I hired on staff, so I was the product. And I'm in my office, in my home, like my financial, like the things that I had to pay for, my expenses were minimal. Because I'm in consulting. But I realize that not everybody's that way. You may actually have a product that you have to develop or mass distribute. So there's the traditional path, which would be like you need to have a solid business plan that has a clearly established budget, that has financial projections that are sound and not based off of your what you intuit or your intuition, but like actually you've had some support in forecasting where you're going to go. You need to be able to say, it costs me this much to operate daily. It costs me, this is how much cash I need to have on hand to get done what I need to do. That's like the more traditional route. You need to know that, like, you're probably going to have to incur some debt to even establish your credit. And I think when I apply a cultural context to that, for some people, debt, the idea of owing people or owing, having debt in the form of a loan can be, in some cultures, is looked down upon. In business, it is part of your strategy, depending on what type of line of work you're in. That doesn't mean you carry a massive amount of debt, but you have to be prepared to think about what that might look like. Um, if you are more of a solopreneur, so that's my kind of like bigger business answer. If you are more of a solopreneur, what I would suggest is being open to trade and barter. You don't have to make dollar for dollar exchanges in order to get access to goods and services. So perhaps you are offering some type of barter system so that you get more access. I think one of the ladies on the call mentioned my headshot. That was one of my first coaching clients. She was still trying to get herself established and grow her company. I said, hey, I have this big network. This is how you can get more clients, which means more money, which means more capital. So I said, take my pictures, giving you a discount on your coaching package. And she booked a lot of business from, those headshots, getting exposure. So you have to be open to thinking about what it is that you can trade in the absence of capital, and knowing that that is a form of capital. Um, in 1988, under the Reagan administration, I can't remember the piece of legislation, but that was when women were first able to actually get access to lines of credit, business lines of credit, without the cosigner being male. So it has not been that long. Okay. It has not been that long since we've been actually able to do this thing on our own. It goes back to asking for help, making sure you have a compelling case and story when you go to that lender. And if you are in the venture capital space, if you are looking for somebody who is either an angel investor or just a traditional type of investor, knowing your worth, do not give up too much of your equity. Do not give up too much of your equity. So you need to bounce this ideas that you may be having to get access to capital to a trusted circle of people, because at the end of the day, a shrewd businessman or woman will try to get as much as they can from you for as little as you will give it to them. So it's asking the right questions. It's reading the right books. I encourage anybody. We have more access to resources now than we ever have. Go to YouTube University if you don't know and start doing your research.
I just want to add to what LaDrina said. So in this particular example that I gave with the Paint It Back Festival, I didn't just show up and ask for money. I had a plan. I had a deck. I invested my money, my time to create a beautiful deck that showed projections of numbers of this year is what we can expect, next year will grow. It said, here are what we could possibly have as solid returns in terms of like increase in foot traffic, increase in sales on the avenue where this building is located, et cetera, because I had done my research and I'm heavily invested, and I spend a lot of my time actually speaking on art, placemaking, and how that impacts economic development. And so it really, you have to be prepared. And knowing your stuff really goes a long way. Showing someone that you have really thought through your plan, you've thought about it and from all the different angles, and coming prepared, having that deck or whatever it might be, that proposal in hand, really goes a long way. I will say that, I think for me, one of the benefits I've had of being a woman who wanted to do many things, one of the greatest benefits, or something that is not great but has been in my favor, has been underestimated. I've been underestimated almost all my life, just because I'm a woman or this or that. And so because people don't expect me to be able to deliver the goods, but then I come prepared and exceed their expectations and come better prepared than someone else who, because of their position and their gender, et cetera, feels like they don't actually have to prepare. They can just show up and say an idea. Whereas I show up and I'm prepared. I've done my research. I've made a product for them to review and look at, I get the yes and not the other person. So I do say, I mean, really, I think that's so important is that, you know, when you be prepared, have something ready, you know, be an expert in whatever it is of this business that you're going to propose or whatever it is that you're going to go seek out funds for, or a yes, that whatever yes you're looking to get, be prepared, be ready, and be an expert to get to that yes. Is just something I wanted to add to. It was inspired by you, LaDrina. Hearing you talk, I was like, yes, that.
I want to say that also it's a very, very important thing to be aware of many organizations we have in Iowa that helps people and companies to get their deal done. We have the Iowa Economic Development Authority, who is there for you, who can connect you, who can help you. It's a wonderful group of people. You have the Chamber of Commerce in your own place that also they can help. Here in Iowa, we have NABO, which is the National Associations of Women Business. So there are many groups that small business owners associations. All these networks are very important to meet people, to get answers, to know how others solve the problem. Sometimes you are in the middle of a challenge that you don't know how to solve. Go to these people. They're helping you. They're helping you even with drawing your idea of the business if you are not clear about it. There are many offices and organizations that are there to help here in Iowa.
Great, thank you all. One thing I want to be sure that we get to as we're nearing the end of the hour, I'd love to know if you could each just give a quick piece of advice on how you think that others can support women-owned businesses.
I personally would say, if you want to do it, if you really love what you think that you can do, you will do it. No matter what, you will do it. It is just a matter of, like Gabby said, be clear about what you want. Be professional. Show others that you are capable of doing. Tell yourself, I can do it, and you'll do it. See yourself in the future. See yourself today helping others other than yourself. There is so many different aspects of a business that you are going to get. Think about all us that no matter why, we are here and we're doing it. And I never thought in my life that I was going to be in the United States having my own business. And here I am. So it's a, you know, it's the type of things that if you feel it, then you will be able to do it. There are many good people that it will help you. Like both of them are saying, Gabby and LaDrina, ask for help, learn how to. Sometimes we don't know how to. Ask for help. There are many people that can help, and you will be able to do it.
So in terms of, I know I'm trying to like be in the chat and answer people's questions, but also be present. So if I seem a little distracted, please, I apologize. My response to supporting women entrepreneurs is just this. I'm very deliberate in my attempts to do so. I start off with wanting to work with underrepresented populations, and I do so unapologetically because of things like the pay equity gap. Because I know that we have less access to capital, And that is also, if you disaggregate that even more and look at it along racial and ethnic lines, you can see where the disparities are. So if I am starting a new endeavor, or if I need a product or a service, I always look out to my network and say, do you know any Black or Brown owned or women owned businesses who offer this type of service? I work with anybody. Let me be very explicit about that. But I also know that there are a lot of women who are out there building something beautiful, who maybe just need the right contract and the right catalytic relationship to take them to their next level. That's not to imply that their services are better than our male counterparts, um, or any of that. I'm not putting a value judgment on who's producing what. I'm just saying I'm very intentional because I know that we have some psychological barriers that are different than our male counterparts. And we also have some financial barriers that statistically are different than our male counterparts. And the least that I can do is try to prioritize doing my little part to make sure that I can help bridge that gap. So I start from there.
Thank you. Well, we're getting very close to the hour, so I want to give our speakers a moment just to think of a final takeaway to leave you all with. And I want to thank them each for being here and sharing their thoughts. And thank you to our audience today, of course, for tuning in. Make sure you plan to join us in June for our next Fearless Focus, covering the topic of confidence. And on September 25th, we'll have our final Fearless Focus of the year, and that will be on risk taking. If you've got story ideas or feedback on today's event, please reach out to us. If you're interested in supporting work like this, work like Fearless, and other work produced by our locally owned media company, becoming a business record member or sponsor helps us continue to do work like this. Reach out to Lynn Belknap if you're interested in advertising opportunities and sponsorships. And finally, we want to leave you with a call to action, of course. Do something in the next week to really help and support women-owned businesses. So speakers, if you want to give just one quick thought to leave us with, we can go around. And Alicia, do you want to start?
Try your best. Try your best and do it. If you want to do it, do it.
Thank you. Gabby.
So my takeaway really is just to be authentic, to be driven and be passionate, to take the time to know who you are, what it is that you want, what your values are, and to ask yourself, how do you want to move through this life? And build a business that aligns with those answers. And if you build a business that aligns with those answers, and you are true to who you are as a person and what your core values are, you will be authentic, you will be driven, you will be passionate, and it will be inevitable, and it will lead to success. You will stand out. Be yourself, be true to your values, be authentic, and show up. And you will be amazed at what you can accomplish.
Okay, LaDrina.
I have 4 words for you. Count it all joy. The setbacks, the successes, the little bitty contract that you got for $500 to that huge contract that you got for $500,000. Be humble and count it all joy. You will fail. That is part of the process. Fail fast. Count it all joy. Take the lessons and propel yourself forward. So that's kind of what I would say to that person who's looking to achieve their next level.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your day.